So it is becoming more evident to me that most of what we call aliens are actually future humans. I know I've done a few videos about future humans this week. This one's gonna be a bit different. Actually a little contradictory in some places because I'm learning some new info here. I'm gonna focus on the facts of why I think and why we can prove that most of these cases are future humans, and then why. Why are the future humans coming back and messing with us? So let's start with the data. Dr. Edgar Mitchell, an amazing astronaut, formed this organization for consciousness research, and they studied a whole bunch of abductees and contactees. And they asked them, it was like thousands, and they said, who abducted you? And they gave them categories. Was it very human-like? Was it tall grays, short grays, mantis, reptilians, apparitions? What is it? And 51% said it was very human-like beings. 51%. So over half of the abductees were abducted by what they called very human-like, meaning they wore uniforms, they had hair, they smiled, they looked just like humans, right? But something was different, something was just off. But they were very human-like, 51%. That is a wild statistic, okay? The next in line was short grays, followed by tall grays. And I've done several videos on how I think and why I think that the grays are actually future humans as well. Just maybe from a divergent timeline, and they're augmented, obviously, but still of the human lineage. So now you're talking about something like 80 or 90% of all abductees are abducted by something very human-like. That's wild. And at the very bottom of this list, 5% or so said they were abducted by some sort of alien-like creature, meaning a reptilian or a mantis or an insectoid or some sort of a light apparition or something, right? Only 5%. That's crazy. Only 5%. That means by and large, across the board, most people are abducted by what they would call human-like beings. Okay, take it a step further. These human-like beings, they breathe our air. That's interesting. If they came from another planet, why would they breathe our air? If they came from another planet on the other side of the galaxy or universe, why would they care about humans? Why? Why would they care about humans, and why would they deliver these messages about taking care of the Earth? You hear this a lot with abductees, especially the younger abductees and children, is take care of the Earth, stop polluting, be good to nature, that kind of stuff. Well, that would make sense if these beings inherited this planet. It wouldn't make sense if they came from some other planet. So we're starting to see a picture here. We're starting to see some trends, okay? Then also, they seem to be nice. Very few people report having a negative experience. And the negative experience overwhelmingly comes from that tiny, tiny subset of people that was actually abducted by what they called aliens, right? Meaning the reptilians and the mantis and insectoids. Those did have a negative experience. Almost all of the people, the vast majority of the people that were abducted by what they called very human-like beings had a moderate to good experience, okay? Now, obviously, if you're plucked from your bed in the middle of the night, that's traumatic, and that's always gonna be traumatic, So you can have a traumatic experience without it being evil intention, right? And then take that a step further, it seems like they go out of their way to make sure that we don't remember the bad stuff. They can, split and splice that memory out of our consciousness. So you just have this missing time. It seems like the missing time is usually the negative instances, right? That they don't want us to remember, because it seems like, obviously only a benevolent being would do that. If they were evil, they wouldn't care if we remembered all that stuff, right? I don't think they're cloaking themselves for their protection. I think they're way beyond that. They're cloaking themselves for our protection. Because it's like when we, shoot a panda with a tranquilizer dart so that we can go study it and help to hybridize them, which we do. We don't want the panda to remember any of that. So they just, get shot with a dart, and they fall to the ground. We go and we do all the stuff to them, and we put them right back, and they wake up, and they don't really know. They're like, I don't know what happened. I kind of have a headache, but everything's cool. I'm back where I started, right? That's what these beings are doing with us, which is a sign of a scientific, benevolent type of an experience. Now, aliens from some other star system probably wouldn't care about our feelings that much. These beings seem to. They're a little cold in a way, the same way scientists and doctors are cold, but they're not evil intended, right? Now that's interesting. That makes me think these are humans again. Now, there's all sorts of other, things that support this, but we'll just stop there. But it just really seems like overwhelmingly people are abducted by human-like beings that seem to breathe our air, care about us, have a vested interest in Earth and the human species, and are pretty nice to us. And they also seem to do, like what Dr. Michael Masters talked about, these longitudinal studies, meaning they'll abduct a child, and then the same group of whatever you want to call them, beings, will continue to abduct that same person throughout their life, which means they're studying that same person. And they're also taking certain things from us. Fecal matter, which you can learn a lot about people's diet and their microbiome from that. It's very important. Just that one little thing they can tell all sorts of stuff about you from. And then also things like semen and that kind of stuff, which means that they're obviously, because so many people have described, seeing these like hybridization type programs. Now that would make sense, okay? Now we get into the why. Why are the future humans going back in time and messing with humans? Well, they're doing it the same reason why we hybridize animals and we do all the weird stuff that we do. You know, they might be doing it because, I mean, look at the stats. We're like, what, 50% decline in sperm count? Our population is in like the beginning throes of population collapse. We have ecological disasters on the horizon, nuclear war being talked about, all sorts of things on the horizon. And on the opposite side of that, who knows what's going to happen? We also have CRISPR, where people are starting to splice our DNA and our genetics and tinkering with stuff. Maybe we tinker so much in the future that we get to a point of no return where we've kind of messed up our blueprint for human beings. So these future humans would go back in time where we're at a pure place, you know, and they can actually get this genetic material from us now before we've messed it up, either through radiation from nukes and stuff, or from too much tinkering with CRISPR, or whatever the case may be. They're going back to a more pure time because we're pure humans. We haven't turned into cyborgs or mutants or anything yet, right? So they'd come back to this time and get human stuff from now, take it to the future. That makes a whole lot of sense. That makes so much more sense than aliens coming from the other side of the universe to mess with us. Like that, they would have to expend so much energy to do that. Why would they do that? Obviously the universe is teeming with life and teeming with intelligent life, but why would they mess with us? Why would they come here? Why would they care? The fact that they're so invested in Earth and in humans, to me, signals, obviously, they are humans from Earth. They are going to inherit this planet, so they don't want us to destroy it. And they need part of our genetics and our DNA and that kind of stuff to hybridize to probably keep their, you know, species and everything going in the future. That makes so much sense. That makes sense, right? Because like they talk about these aliens coming down and grabbing us, doing anal probes and taking our genetic, you know, our genetic material and stuff. Well, if they weren't us, it wouldn't do them any good. Like if they weren't compatible with us. So obviously they have to have the same genetics as us for them to be able to use our genetic material, right? It just makes sense. They are us. They have to be. There's no other way. So I did a video a few days ago about why I think that they're actually coming back and why I think that they want us to create these weapons and stuff to kind of serve as like this armed security force for them. And I do think that. I think there's a breakaway faction that is doing that. So that is contradictory with what I'm saying here, because what I'm describing are these benevolent future humans going back in time as basically just researchers and scientists and trying to preserve the human genetic lineage and preserve, you know, Earth and that kind of stuff. Well, I think that this time travel capability is open to all sorts of people in the future, and we're seeing different factions and different professions going back in time for different purposes and agendas. And that's why they're not all fitting one pattern. But by and large, when you interview abductees, right, which they've done in this, the Dr. Edgar Mitchell, you know, study lines up with MUFON study, lines up with John Mack's study, and all these different people that have been able to study tons of different abductees and put together this picture where it does seem like most of it is peaceful and benevolent. Most of it is done for like scientific and research purposes, and most of it is done by what we would describe as very human-like beings. Now, that's totally different than an alien abduction, isn't it? It changes everything. Now, why do we think they're from the Pleiades and Arcturians and Orion and that kind of stuff? It's probably misdirection. I think they know our psyche. They probably know at our stage of development, it's easier for us to reconcile, oh, they came from that dot up there in the sky. They came from way up there, than to say they came from the future. I think that the future time travel aspect boggles the mind way more than just saying they came from up there. I think that at some point we'll be psychologically, emotionally, and consciously ready to accept that and have that conversation, but I don't know if we are yet. And I think that's why they're pointing us up there. That's just my opinion. I don't know. Let me know. What do you guys think about us? Have a beautiful day. Peace.